Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your host, Katie Comer.
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome to Hope After Addiction. We are so happy that you've joined us this morning. How are you, friend?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's been
You
forever.
all, I know you all have not had a break, but we had a break in taping for a little bit. Just life and no baby yet.
No
but just
baby yet.
life and storms and all the things that kept us from getting in the studio. Luckily, we had a couple saved up, so you don't miss any, but we missed each other.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I know. I want to say it's been like 3 weeks.
Yeah, not an intentional break, but you know.
No. Luckily, you learned our secret, and we do a couple here in the studio. We record a couple in the studio each day, so we had some built up.
I know.
So,
How are you?
I'm good.
Gearing up for summer with the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are a week away from summer break. And during the storms, we had a couple of bad storms last week. And they were out of school for like 2 days because of all the storms and the flooding and all the things. And it made me look up all of the camps.
That's right. It's time.
All the camps because I don't know. And I am really looking forward to having them home. But it was like a wrench in like the week and nothing was open because it's not summer yet. So no pools were open.
Yeah.
And so we were just like stuck at home. And so I'm looking forward to summer more specifically because we can go do things. We couldn't go do things last week.
No.
And it was a lot, but it's fine. We made it through.
Stuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
about
can't
you?
believe it's summer. Just getting ready for a baby.
I know.
Preparing.
It's almost time, y'all. We can't wait
hard
to
to
update
believe.
y'all.
I know.
By the time this is released, it'll be almost time.
That's
I
scary.
think.
Yeah. I've got a lot to do. Oh, it's exciting though.
Yeah. So we're all excited about different things. So, but we are glad that you joined us this morning. Today we're going to be talking about a subject, fight or flight, dealing and how you deal with your problems, specifically you. And I feel like when I was going over these notes, I feel like I've been both.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I've fought in dealing with some of my problems, but I've also, I flew away.
I know. I was like, what's the right word for that? Yeah.
I ran away, essentially, from
yeah.
some problems. And I think naturally, I've talked to friends about this before, especially in a marriage and how you deal with problems. I think that you're one or the other.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'll just let you know kind of how I deal with things. I like to leave
Yep.
and think about things. And so I feel like I've talked about this before in my podcast so I guess I'm a flight initially and naturally. I just kind of want to get away from the problem, not deal with it in the moment.
Yeah.
And then there's certain people that are just fighters. And I am thankful that there's both.
Yeah.
Because if everybody was running away from problems, nothing would ever get solved. And so Adam is a fighter. Oh, like he wants to fix the problem right then and there.
Yep.
And so I'm grateful, not in the moment.
Me too.
I'm grateful that he's like that, but I think that you're either one or the other naturally, right?
For sure.
What about you? What do you think you are?
We're the exact same. And there's so much that goes into personality type and your past that creates these patterns or behaviors. But I am 100% a runner and a
you are.
flighter. You know,
Yeah. But
I'm
you are a
like,
runner too.
Peace out.
I was thinking
Yeah,
runner.
that too. Yeah. That's why I like to run so much. But yes, I am that. And I've learned as I've grown and dealt with this stuff, I've learned it's better for me to step away and process what I'm feeling and then talk about it. And John's like that too, but John's very much like Adam. He is like, let's right now talk about this, figure this out. Me, I'd never touch it again. And that's not a healthy response.
No, but
because I don't like confrontation. I like flee from confrontation. So this has definitely been a growing pattern in this, but I'm like you too. There's certain things that I have fought tooth and nail for,
Yeah.
like with everything in me.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the situation where you're at, what God's told you to do.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to this that you can dig into, and it's fun. It's a lot of learning.
Yeah. I mean, I think you make a good point. I think you got to be careful about not saying I'm one or the other completely, because I think that there's opportunities for you to maybe even get out of your comfort zone and be the other. So for me, for example, in situations in times in my life where I was fighting for something, it was beautiful because that's not naturally me.
Yes.
And I think when Adam was going through his addiction, for example, I think my first, the nature of it was to flee the situation, not him necessarily, but just like, I don't know, I don't want to deal with it. And then after counsel and after meeting with people, the importance of fighting for the marriage became very evident.
Yeah.
And so then I had to figure out, okay, what does fighting for this situation look like?
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of learn that part of it in that situation and that problem, how to fight for that. And so it was beautiful, and it stretched me, and it can stretch you for sure in your situation, whatever you're dealing with. So
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because we run, why we fly is because we're uncomfortable. You know, and that's like the definition is, sorry, there's a little gnat thing. The automatic psychological response to an event that is perceived as stressful or frightening. The perception of a threat activates the sympathetic nervous system and triggers an acute response to which affects your entire body. And like I think about those times where I flee and like it affects my entire body. Like I want to run so hard. And I had a counselor and he taught me, he's like, when you want to run, that's when you better dig your feet in, because running is what's comfortable to you. You're running because you're uncomfortable. And so it's a good point, because when you learn to fight for your marriage, I'm learning dig your feet in. Like I'm learning to not get in my car and leave. But I'm also, one of the most beautiful lessons is also, there will be times where I would want to talk about it right now. And I've learned one of the greatest gifts is giving space to process and calm down, and then to come back and reconvene. So there's that middle line of fight or flight of let's process, let's step away, and then let's come back together and deal with it the right way.
yeah, because I think if you're a natural fighter, that's important too, because that's something Adam's had to learn, is to give me some space, which I think is important, so that I don't say something I don't mean. You know, I think it's healthy to kind of take your space. So finding that middle ground is important.
Yeah, it's healthy. I had a counselor tell us one time, I think it was mine and John's, but he had said that by the time, so I'm a thinker, like, cause I'm a runner. Like I move away, process, think. I may sit on it for a month. So by the time I approach John with it, I've had 2 weeks to think about it. And so I approach him with it and he's like, whoa, what? And I'm ready to talk about it. Well, John's not. And so that was been a big lesson is, okay, you've had weeks or days to think about this. You've processed it. Now you have to give John space to process and think through this before you can have a mutual healthy conversation.
And then that's you waiting.
Oh yeah.
That's hard.
So that,
Have you thought about it? Have you
yeah,
prayed about it?
exactly. Are you ready to talk yet?
Yeah.
You know? So that's that's been a huge blessing in our relationship. Like you said, with Adam, to respect each other.
Yeah.
Say, I know that you need space to think about this, but I do want to talk about it instead of fleeing. And I've learned just in some situations in the last few months is I don't let people in easily. That's just has been a big epiphany to me. But my personality type also, there's a door slam. And when I've been hurt or when somebody's pushed me so far, I slam the door and like you can't get it back open. But it's also not a Christian-like response. And it's a part of my personality, but I'm learning to fight that because it's so easy for me to slam a door and never open it again. But that's not what God always wants us to do. So it goes deep into fight or flight. And just, we want to encourage you to dig into, do you fight or do you flight? And why do you do the things that you do? Yeah.
And there's so many examples in the Bible of people on both sides.
It's
right?
so cool. Yeah.
Some biblical examples. I was thinking about Mary and what did she fight or flight once she found out that she was carrying Jesus?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I mean,
Can you
I hope that I would have been like her and been like, all right, we're going to fight this and I'm good.
But this town may stone me.
But I know how I am. So I feel like I would have been like, no, I'm all right.
Yeah. I'm going into hiding. I'll be back in 9 months. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
But
It is
I don't
so
know.
true.
Yeah. It's just crazy. And then Abraham and,
Yeah.
just having to sacrifice his own son. And I was thinking about that whole story when he's up at the mountain and him fighting.
That's a good one.
He did not flee
Yep.
from that, and he knew he was going to have to sacrifice his son because there was no other sacrifice. So
How
he
hard
fought.
would we have run?
I mean, I would have run. I know, and that's and I don't want that. I don't want that in me. I want to be. Okay, God, you're challenging me with this, and we're going to fight it. And that's my natural response because you've shown up so much in my life already. And I know that you're going to take care of this situation. But like when I look at these people and how much God's done in them, and so they're just fighting and they know, and there's no other answer other than yes, Lord. I want to be like that, but I don't know if I would have.
Well, I mean, we go on the hindsight of addiction to where we are today. And if God would have said, hey, this is what's going to happen. You're going to find your husband overdosed. We're going to move you to a whole different state and leave your family. Are you still going to say yes? Or are you going to fight? Are you going to run from me?
Yeah.
And I think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
And I was processing through this in examples. And, where he says, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet I want your will, not mine. And the question is, what if Jesus would have run? What would life have looked like for us?
That's crazy. Yeah.
And God has not that story for you, but God has a story for you. What if you run right now? And what God's trying to write and use for his glory, he can't because you're running. And so you have to ask yourself, and there are healthy times, like that's even, why did God give us fight or flight? There are healthy times. You see a bear in the woods, like you see anything, like there are healthy times to run or to fly. Abusive situations, there are healthy times to run, to flee. But our natural response in uncomfortable situations like addiction, like infertility, like anything, marriage gets uncomfortable and we just want to run. We just want to call it quits and say no. But God is using your story. And what if you say no? What if you run from what he's wanting to do?
Yeah. Yeah. And essentially, I love that you use, I like, because I was thinking about it. What if God had told me, okay, this is what's going to happen and this is your life? What? I don't know. But there's the other part of it too, where he's like, but your life is going to look different, but it's going to be so beautiful, right? And so having faith over the fearful part of it, right? Yeah. Choosing to say, God, you know what's best. So I'm going to choose not to be fearful in this time, and I'm going to have faith. And there's a scripture, Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Yeah. So trusting that the Lord knows what's best for you, even in the tough, even when you want to run so fast away from whatever, but trusting that he, and it's so easy to do hindsight. Yeah. But trusting in the Lord in whatever you're dealing with right now. If you have a loved one going through addiction, you have a loved one that needs help, going through help, has been helped. Just trusting in that plan. And it's hard to say don't be fearful, but just have faith over the fear. Yeah. Faith that God is going to guide you in that.
Yeah, and it's such a good point. I was actually talking to my doula recently. We choose a more holistic birth path, and I had to call her because I'm like, Judith Ann, I'm struggling with this. And the word she said to me is, Chelsea, you choose faith over fear 1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. And so we do that in the small, but are we willing to do that in the big? Like, what are you in right now that's huge and massive and life-changing that you're not giving that trust to God? And it's hard in the middle. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. And the enemy wants us, that's one thing I wrote, the enemy wants us to run from the glory that God wants us to use, and to remember like trusting in him in the small things, but also in the big things, like splitting the Red Sea and all of those things. Like, trust him. And it's hard. It is hard. But when you see the fruit and the glory on the other side, it all makes sense. You know, and I know we can't see it right now. We're not meant to see it. But there's so many things that if we would have run, what couldn't God have done? You go back to all the characters in the Bible, and I'm like, Katie, I want that faith. I want that trust to say, God, whatever you put in my life, it can be today. Whatever you put in my life today, the next 3 seconds of my life could change the trajectory of my life forever. All of us, anybody watching this. But I trust you in whatever you choose to do today. And I'm not going to run from you.
Yeah. And sometimes in the middle of a season that y'all might be in, it's hard to put your faith over the fear. And that's where you've really got to lean in to one, God's guidance, and how he guides you is through the Bible and encourages you. But also he uses other ways to lead and guide you through this difficult time of saying, I just don't know how I'm going to get through this. I literally don't know how I'm ever going to trust this person again. I don't know how I'm ever going to love this person again. I don't know what to do. That's when you really lean in to other people's stories, other people's prayers over you. Because if I say this all the time, if I had two women who had gone through the exact same story, telling you their story of hope and their faith over fear, I would have just clung. I would be clinging on to that and saying, God, you do have my best interest. You do.
Yeah.
And he does have his best interest over your life, whatever that looks like. And so just cling to know that he's got you, and he's got you in his hand, and he's got your story. This is not surprising to him. And just lean into God's guidance through, whether it be through the Bible, which is his love letter to you, through other people telling you their stories and encouraging you, through Christian counsel, prayer. There's so many different ways that you can lean into God's guidance in this moment. And that's what we encourage you to do, for sure.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
And that's, a reminder always is when it comes to fight or flight and the fight for your relationship or for your marriage, for your child, for the loved one, whatever you're going through, it is not in our strength. I know my fight to stay and fight for John, I didn't do that. There is no way possible that my human comprehension and weakness could have ever fought through what I did. And so, I did say prayer a minute ago because that has been my greatest tool when I wanted to run so hard and so fast, even after the relapse, and I told John, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I mean, I was contemplating the run. Like, that's what I wanted. That's what felt comfortable to me because running is what was comfortable to me. And so in my strength, in the fights, in the battles, in the lies, in the betrayal, in the overcoming, all of that, like, that was not my strength. And I had to learn that, like, I don't have the strength to stay. I don't have the strength to fight. But my fight became the Lord's fight. And that's the only reason we're here today.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason we're here today. And the glory of his redemption is because of God's fight in me.
Yeah. And God will win the battle.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have to worry about that part.
No.
Now, we're not always saying that he's going to heal your loved one.
Yeah.
That's what we hope for. And we know that he can because we've seen it in our own life. We don't know what your story is going to look like, but we do know he's going to win the battle of your heart.
Yep.
And he's going to win the battle of your despair. He will win the battle. and he knows what your story looks like.
Yeah.
And he's going to win the battle of your heart. So just trust in that.
Yeah, trust in that, because we don't know the outcome.
Right.
We never will.
Yeah.
Our outcome could have been very different.
Yeah.
I don't know what lays on the next side of the 24 hours.
Yeah.
But I do know what he's brought me through is I am going to trust him. Even in the heart, even in the doubt, I always have to bring myself back to his strength. And then I'm going to trust you no matter what that looks like.
That's good.
And sometimes he does call us to flee. That is a whole other, subject we could get into.
Yeah, it
But
could be
God
another
will lead
podcast,
you.
yeah.
God will give you the strength to know what to do.
Yeah.
So
Do you have anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions about that, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you. We do have Facebook and Instagram. If you want to private message us, we can look at those. We do have an email at hopeafteraddiction@gmail.com. Feel free to email us any questions that you might have. We are so thankful for all of our listeners. We get feedback. I've gotten some feedback even recently about people listening. And so it's so beautiful to know that we're reaching people we've never even met. And we're thankful for you. We hope you continue to listen. We will be back next week with another great episode. We hope you have a blessed day. Bye.